We need boundaries, guys. We need boundaries.
What do you mean?
So, we all have a very fractured sense of self. And our self is fractured because we don't really know ourselves. We don't really know who we are. Because we spend most of our life running away from ourselves. Running away from who we are. Right? Not accepting who we are. Not appreciating who we are. Right? Never allowing who we are. Because for most of us, it was too much. There was too much trauma. There was too much neglect. There was too much pain. There was too much suffering. And it was so much. There was so much that we couldn't really hold all that experience. And what happened was our sense of self fractured. Our sense of self fractured. And we lost our integrity, right? We sort of fragmented. We fell apart into pieces. We shattered. And for most of us, that's when it was usually an experience we can remember, some sort of trauma or multiple experiences, where we left our bodies. We left our bodies because it was too much for us to really process that, to hold that experience. And then we grow up into these seemingly adult-looking beings, but we're carrying this unprocessed material, this debris. And because we don't have boundaries, we project this material onto other people, and we receive other people's material onto ourselves. And we don't know how to say, hey, this is mine and this is yours, or this is yours, not mine. So we take other people's opinion of us, how they think we should be, their expectations for us, or even society's expectations of us, right? And media's expectation of us, right? How our bodies should be, how much money we should make, where we should live, blah, blah, blah. And we basically hold ourselves to that standard, which we can never ever be that. So even the richest person in the world still feels not enough, right? Still feels something's missing. The richest person in the world, right? Because something is missing, right? But what they're missing is not outside them. It's not something that's sitting in a bank account. It's not sitting in a garage, right? It's inside them. So what are we all seeking? We're all seeking wholeness. We're all seeking coming home to ourselves. We're all seeking reunification, right? We want to just put all the pieces together. It's like we're this giant jigsaw puzzle that's been scattered, and we're just putting the pieces together. But we need each other to put the pieces together, right? We can't do this ourselves. So this intelligence that has created us is very, intelligent, right? It's perfect. It's mathematically perfect. It's the perfect equation because it balances itself. And I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer, by education at least. But I still think, in a very mathematical way about life. And if you think about reality, reality has to be a perfect equation. It's got to be an equation that balances itself, right? Because this is one complete energetic system into itself. The universe, that is you, Because if you're listening to this, you are the universe. You're just one aperture that the universe is looking out through, which just happens to be your sense of self. It's just who you think you are. So the universe can know that flavor of itself. Right? So you're that flavor of the divine, of the universe. That's why Rumi said, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop. Because this is fractalic, right? The universe is a fractal. It repeats itself. So, what we're seeking to do is balance this equation. Right? The whole point of life is to balance our equation. But if you're like most people, you don't know what the variables are. You confuse the constants. And you don't know which way is up and which way is down. You don't know the mathematical principles underlying this reality. And if you don't know the mathematical principles, then you can't really work within this system.
You get too wrapped up in controlling.
Exactly.
The
Right. You're solving a different problem.
Surrender.
Right. So the thing is that like most people, they misunderstand what are the variables and what are the constants. So all the things that they think are constants are actually variables. Like take one simple example, like where you live. Most people have lived where they live for what, like 5 years plus, 10 years plus, 20 years plus? Some people have never left where they were born, right? We take all these things in life as constants. And the things that are variable, we make constants, right? We make our attributes constants. I'm bad at math. I can't play the guitar. Limitation. I'm broke. Limitation. Right? And we live in limitation. We accept this world of limitation as fact, as unchangeable fact. And because we accept it as fact, that becomes the prison that we live in. And the goal is to break free of that prison. The goal is to break free of this prison, right? The beliefs, exactly. Because we are not who we think we are, right? Nowhere close. But because we've accepted such a condensed, abridged, like toned down version of ourselves, watered down, right? The cliff notes. We're like, oh, that's who I am.
Conditioning.
Yeah, and that's the conditioning. So this work is about freeing yourself of the conditioning.
Yeah.
The conditioning that keeps you trapped, the conditioning that limits you, the conditioning that tells you that you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't have this and you can't have that. And to be honest, it's not even about having the things or doing the things, right? It's just about the state of being in this surrender, of flow, of this pure state, pure presence with reality.
All you have to have is an intention.
That's it.
And let the waves take you.
Right. Have an intention, let the waves take you. Because the best surfers don't surf the waves, they let the waves surf them. They allow themselves to be surfed by the ocean.
You don't want to go uphill.
You don't want to go uphill.
ocean.
You can't change the ocean, so why would you even try?
Downstream, don't go upstream.
Right. But you see, most people with life, they're doing the exact opposite.
Yeah.
They're fighting, resisting. Like, and often what they're fighting for are their limitations, for their limited version. Right? No, please put me in a box. Please tell me like what my, like stats are for life. Right? And then I'm going to argue for that. Most people argue for their limitations. Most people argue for their fucking limitations.
Yep. Well, I always like to say, like, your brain wants to be right more than it wants to be successful.
Correct. But it's not that your brain wants to be right, it's that the ego needs to feel like it's right.
Yeah.
The ego wants to feel validated.
Like, I'm right. Yeah.
Right? The ego derives its sense of self and its worth from existing. Right? Because the word exist is to exist, as in to stand out. The ego wants to stand out. The ego wants to be something. The ego wants to be somebody. Right? The ego wants to be known. The ego wants to be acknowledged. The ego wants to...
Let go of my ego.
Yeah. But all those are attachments. All those are attachments that keep us from actually living life. So the real goal is not to be, saints living on top of monasteries or mountains or whatever. It's really being in this dance with the present moment, in the purity of this experience. Right? Can I just be here, not as a function of who I used to be, not as a function of my history, not as a function of my past conditioning, not as a function of like who I thought I was, what my teachers told me I was, what my parents told me I needed to be loved, right?
But it's a function of who I want to be.
But it's a function of actually not even who I want to be, because that doesn't actually exist either. It's actually just being with no thought. Just being, right?
It's a function of being.
Just being.
Yeah.
You're not chasing, you're not moving towards something, you're not trying to avoid something else. You're just being.
Just being.
I just am. Right? I am. That's the big I am, right? I don't have a name. I don't have a nationality. I don't have a form. I just am. Right? And that's really this idea that I'm birthing, which is shunya. So I am shunya. This is my introduction to you. And shunya in Sanskrit means nothing, zero. It means zero, right? It's nothing.
Not being, right?
But only when we're willing to be nothing can we be everything.
Yeah.
Right? Our greatest fear in life is to be nothing, is to lose our identity, is to lose our history, is to lose our family structures, right? All these structures that we use to define ourselves with, we use for grounding. We're always trying to triangulate ourselves through our friends, our networks. Because if you really think about it, we're all just shards of consciousness floating through consciousness itself, right?
Yeah.
And if you forget that you have a family, if you forget that you are American or English or Colombian or whatever, if you forget that you have a gender, right? And you just, for a second, Just allow yourself to be. Just be. Just forget your history for a second. Forget everything that happened to you. Right? Forget your name. Forget your age. Forget your gender. Right? Just allow yourself to arrive in the present moment just as awareness without being restricted to a certain shape. Without needing to be someone or something, right? This tax bracket or whatever, you know. You just are. Notice how freeing that is. Right? That's what all of us are after. That's what everyone on the planet is after. That's what everyone wants. That's what everyone wants. And it's hiding in the last place anyone thinks to look. Which is right here.
Yeah, like that's what grace means to me.
Right.
The idea that, I mean, the more I say it this way, the more I believe it this way.
Yeah.
It makes sense this way. It's like the idea that there's just so much nothing in this universe. Like there's just a bunch of empty space.
Yeah. This universe is mostly empty space.
Right. And so the idea that I get to feel pain, joy, sadness, grief, love, anything, like I'm fucking lucky about it. Like,
Doesn't every emotion, no matter how painful, suddenly become the most exquisite orgasm?
Yeah, because it's like I can easily
Like
just
what
be
a
nothing.
pleasure it is to experience. Think about it. What a pleasure it is to experience.
Yeah.
Right? To experience without thinking about and making meaning about whatever it is you're experiencing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because you could easily just not.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You could just not. Exactly. That's, that should be that's the whole program. Just don't. Just that thing you do, just don't.
Yeah.
Can you just not? That's it. It really is that simple, right?
It really is.
It really is that simple. But here's the thing. The most profound things are hiding in plain sight, and they're actually completely, stupidly simple. But they take a lifetime to grasp for
Yes.
most people, right? So,
And even if when you grasp, you still have to
right,
maintain.
right. So this form, shunya, that I'm channeling this through, understands this, right? It understands that. It understands the paradox of this. That it can really be that simple, and it can really be that profound, and it can really be that complex. Because that's what my experience of being alive is, which is being sandwiched between zero and infinity.
Yes.
It's a vortex.
Right, I'm nothing, and I'm infinite at the same time.
Yes.
Vortex that never ends.
Right. It's a torus,
Yeah.
right? And so our job is to flow, right? Is to be the channels for the flow of this energy, right? That's what this human form is for. And, unfortunately, a lot of things get in the way of that, and we forget and we block this flow by doing stupid stuff, and that's okay too. And then we hurt each other, and we, kill each other, and we fight each other, and we imprison each other. We cage each other. Think about that. We cage each other. Like, we literally, one human being thinks of putting another human being in a cage for their life. Like, we do that, right? So, think about how much pain we all carry. We're all carrying a lot of pain. And it's this pain that hasn't been processed, this pain that needs to be felt, that is keeping us from progressing as a society. Right? And so, this is the work. The work is contact this pain. Right? Contact this pain. Let's get intimate. Let's get to know each other. Let's get to know ourselves, right?
The work is to come back to the vortex.
The work is to just come back to, language is an approximation at best, because it's still an object-oriented reality. And there's also no such thing as the work, and there's no such thing as reality, because it's just all happening. You're just giving names to different elements.